how do you say your last name again?
Watch it there. This is a family-friendly show. It's Jay Felicio,
There we go.
also known as GBenJ on Twitter. So,
All right, so we're here getting you ready for week one. First, a little about ourselves. I started playing fantasy about 2005 or so. I started writing 3 years ago. Joined Going for two years ago, and have been writing for them ever since. What about you, Jay?
I've been playing since the late '90s / early 2000s. I'm up there, and I started fantasy baseball, but of course got into fantasy football quick, and fantasy football was king. But I play fantasy football, baseball, basketball, hockey, a little bit of everything. It's a passion of mine, obviously, and started writing 2 years ago. I did a little bit. And I took on a bigger role last year when I had my son. He's going to be 2 in January, so wasn't able to do a whole lot at first. But as he got older, I was able to dive in a little more. I have a weekly column with Going for Two. 10 things to know about week whatever. I would normally have it done by now, but as you know, with my lovely decor, I'm on vacation. I have a family vacation, so had some, unplugged and just didn't quite have time to get it done like I would like to normally. But I will normally have it done by Thursday, and we can discuss it on the show. I also write for Sleeper Wire. I do a start sit over there, among other things. And I'm just pumped that football's finally here, man. I didn't think it was actually going to happen, but here we are.
Absolutely. That's the important thing. Football is finally here. All right, so let's get into some news and notes around the league. First one starts off with my favorite team, the Eagles. Seems to be that they're having a little contract dispute with star tight end Zach Ertz. Ertz wants more money and doesn't feel like the Eagles really want him around past this year. They feel that Dallas Goedert could probably take over for him, and he's asking for a lot of money, and we really have no cap room as it is. I don't know. I think with 2 years left, though, I think it's tough to give the guy a new deal. I mean, he got a pretty sizable extension last time, so I think it's a little bit premature for him.
Especially when you got a guy like Dallas Goedert, that he's obviously, some people think he's better. I honestly think he's better than Ertz, and Ertz is starting to get up there in age. He's battled injuries here recently. Why are you going to spend that money, on a position like tight end, even though they do use them in the offense, when you've got a guy that's ready to plug and play and go, go from there.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next item. We have little-known James Robinson starting in Jacksonville. Now, I got to be honest, I didn't really know much about this guy leading into the season, and now all of a sudden, with Fournette gone and half the running back room fallen to injuries, it seems that he's starting week one for them. So I think he's a pretty decent, he's a good PPR back to have. What are your thoughts?
To be honest with you, same with you. I didn't really know a whole lot about him. Getting ready, I did a little research, and I don't think he's going to be much of anything. There's not going to be much opportunity for him. There's not going to be very many positive game scripts. Jacksonville's going to be awful. They got rid of everybody. I think you and I could play defense on their team right now. They also have Chris Thompson, who new offensive coordinator Jay Gruden loves. He's going to be in there for the passing downs, and the rookie Laviska Shenault Jr. reports are that he's going to play all over the field in the backfield. He can play tight end, he can throw the ball. So I think with those things, Robinson isn't somebody that I'm interested in.
Yeah, agreed. I think like everything you said, with even reports now of Laviska getting some running back snaps, I just think that it's too much of a mess to count on him.
Yeah. And two, once week one starts, the contracts aren't guaranteed anymore. So guys that are floating out there like a Lamar Miller or Devontae Freeman, if he's still not asking for a ridiculous amount of money, I would not be surprised to see them snag up one of those guys.
Mm-hmm. And it is interesting, though, because you see some people in Scott Fishbowl spending their entire allotment of fab on him and stuff. And I get it. He's a surprise. He's starting. So starting running backs don't go on the waiver wire pretty much ever. So I get the rationale. I just think it's really too premature to be spending that much money on him.
Yep. I completely agree.
Yeah. All
And
right.
I don't like agreeing with you at all.
I hate you completely. So we're on the same page there. And finally, this is for tonight's game. Brandon Cooks seems to be injured. Latest reports are that he should dress, but I don't know how much he's going to play. And that should open up the door for Will Fuller and Randall Cobb. What do you think?
I love Brandon Cooks. He's one of my favorite players when he's able to stay on the field. I think he was the only player. I don't remember the stat exactly, but something along the lines of going to three different teams in 3 years and still receive over 1,000 yards. He's been able to plug and play just about anywhere he goes. But here recently, it's his concussions and now this. He's not able to stay healthy. That's why I was snagging Randall Cobb late in almost every draft I could, with both Cooks and Fuller known for injury issues. I think Cobb is going to be the guy that Watson could really come to rely on, going under pressure. And he's never had a reliable guy in the slot. They've never really had a tight end that's been much of anything. I think that Cobb's the guy that's going to retain the most value in this offense.
Absolutely. Yeah, Cobb's a sneaky good waiver pickup heading into tonight's game. All right. Now, going into our articles, I wrote a article for the top 10 rookies I feel are going to shine going into the season. So we can jump into that. Number one, I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think, obviously, reasoning speaks for itself. He's first round pick of the Chiefs. Chiefs are the best offense in the history of the universe. He has good receiving ability, good rushing ability. Mahomes likes him. He's coached by Andy Reid. There's pretty much no real downside to him. What do you think?
Comparing him to Brian Westbrook, for those people who haven't been playing fantasy long enough to remember, Westbrook was a beast.
That makes me feel old.
Yeah, I know. I remember drafting those guys. Like, wow, that was a long time ago. Feels like it was just yesterday. But Westbrook was a top 5 running back in fantasy for a few years. I mean, he was a stud. So I was upset when Damian Williams opted out because I was all aboard the CEH hype train. Damian Williams to me is just another guy. I don't think he's anything special. I think CEH was going to take over this backfield regardless. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you. Unfortunately, once again, I agree with you.
You're doing that a lot recently.
Yeah, I know. And I don't like it, but it is what it is. I'd rather stub my toe than agree with you, but it is what it is.
I just have good points. What can I say? All right, number 2, I have Jonathan Taylor. So Taylor is in kind of a timeshare because I don't think Marlon Mack is just going to, fall away and become irrelevant. Yep. But I think especially week 1, if he gets a decent number of carries, he's going to show, why he was drafted as high as he was and what made him a really good running back, and then he's going to take the job and run with it.
Yep, I completely, once again, I agree. But I could see Taylor. Taylor is infinitely better talent-wise than Marlon Mack, but I don't think that they're just going to give up on him either because, Mack was productive last year when he got the chance. He wasn't fantastic, but he was solid. I could see it being, at the beginning of the year, kind of how Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard were, where they both got some run, both had some productive games. You couldn't really predict it at first, but I think by the end of the season, Taylor's going to take over.
Agreed. Number 3, a guy that isn't really talked about a lot, but I think he's going to have a really good year is Joe Burrow. I think as soon as he got drafted, he was the unquestioned starter in Cincinnati. They have a sneaky good offense. They have some good weapons. They have, AJ Green, Mixon, Bernard, Boyd. So I think
he's got tons of weapens.
Yeah, even Higgins. They drafted Higgins this year too.
Yep, and they've got a solid offensive line. You got Mixon in the backfield. A healthy AJ Green. Even though he's battling some issues, he's healthier than he has been. Yeah, quote unquote healthy. He's got plenty of opportunity to really light it up. I unfortunately don't have any shares. He was going a little too high for me in drafts, but he's somebody who, when I play in Superflex leagues, I always try to get my second guy as someone that I could feasibly see jumping up to that next tier. And I think I could see Burrow being a QB1 this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he has a good shot at breaking the rookie records for yards and TDs.
Yep, 100%.
Number 4, I have Cam Akers. Now, interestingly, the Rams actually have Malcolm Brown starting, but we both know that's utterly ridiculous because it's Malcolm Brown. And you don't draft Cam Akers that high if you're not gonna play him. So I think, again, kind of like the Colts, it might be a timeshare even with Darrell Henderson still being there, but I think eventually Cam Akers is definitely going to take the job over, and just it's going to be his backfield.
Yeah, and the same thing was my argument when people were saying with CEH and Damian Williams being there. If the Rams were so confident in Henderson, they wouldn't have drafted Akers. They've took him second round in Florida State. He was a stud. I'm a Duke fan. Unfortunately, football we're not that great, but I do watch ACC football, and Cam Akers was he's infinitely more talented than the other guys that they have there. So I think once again. We're going to get to some disagreements here shortly, but I agree with you there on Akers. I think he's going to be a stud.
Yeah,
I got him.
The agreements are end very soon. Yeah. All right, number 5. Now, as much as I personally don't really believe in this guy, I think Justin Jefferson, strictly because the opportunity. Like he's already the wide receiver 2 across from Dalen, so I think he's going to get the snaps and the targets necessary for him to become a good fantasy asset. I don't agree with people that say that he's going to be like this awesome receiver. I didn't really see that. I think that he took advantage of a really good system at LSU with a good quarterback, and he had Chase on the other side of him. So it wasn't like he was ever being doubled or even pressed or anything. But, with just opportunity, I think he's going to end up being a decent pro.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to disagree with you. I think Jefferson's good. But I think he's got a couple things working against him. This is a run, even with Stefanski in Cleveland, this is still going to be a team that runs through Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. And when they do throw the ball, Kirk Cousins and Thielen have such a connection. I think he's going to have a hard time climbing up the pecking order. Plus, they got 2 capable tight ends in Herb Smith Jr. and Kyle Rudolph. I think I like Jefferson, but I think this is just a little too high in the rookie ranks for me.
Mm-hmm. All right. At number 6, we have Antonio Gibson. So when he was drafted, it seemed like he was going to complete cluster at the running back room in Washington with Peterson and Love and Kizik and Barber. But now that it seems to have thinned out a little bit, he seems to be primed for, if not an every down role, at least the pass catching role. So I think that he'll start paying dividends pretty soon. He's really athletic, and the opportunity is there.
Yeah, and I'm going to disagree with you. Well, I guess this is a good spot for him. The hype train needs to die down, though. People are going crazy saying he's going to be CMC because of the comparisons from Ron Rivera. The guy had 33 snaps last year. 33 snaps
rushes?
Last year.
Rushes, right?
33 rushes. Yeah, 77 snaps or something like that. Give me a break. I think he's talented. I think he's going to produce, but he's not going to go from 33 rushes in college to becoming Christian McCaffrey in a year. So I think if you can sell high, I've seen some crazy offers. I've seen people get some really good deals. I think if you can sell high on Gibson, now's the time to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the CMC hype train has got to just stop. Not even slow down, just completely stop, get off the train. He's not CMC. It's not, Washington isn't that good of a team. It just isn't going to happen. I agree with you there. All right, number 7 is Mike Pittman Jr. from the Colts. I think he has a good shot at getting, if not wide receiver 2, at least wide receiver 3 snaps. I think the kind of quarterback he has in Rivers will be conducive to the skill set he has. And while the Colts do have good receiving options with Hilton, the tight ends, and Hines there, I think he'll get enough. Maybe not immediately, but he'll turn into a really solid pro for them.
Yeah, I agree. And, Hilton hasn't been able to stay healthy here recently as well. He was already dealing with some issues this offseason. I think they took him before they took Taylor, I believe, didn't they? So, they obviously have a lot of confidence in him being able to become that guy. I think you're right on the money. I think they finally – Brissett was decent last year, in flashes, but they've actually got a quarterback now who's going to be able to throw the ball and I think Rivers is going to go to Pittman a lot.
Yeah. All right. Number 8, I have Ayuk from San Francisco. So I think with him, if everyone was healthy, I'd probably not have him here. But because they're dealing with basically their entire receiving core being injured, I think he'll have, and even now he's dealing with some injury questions himself. But I think if he can stay healthy and suit up, that he can have some decent run and pretty much have kind of the rookie year that Debo had last year.
Yeah, I completely agree. And there's been a lot of reports that Shanahan's very excited to have him, and he's got some plans for him. So if Kyle Shanahan's scheming for you in his offense, big things can happen. I completely agree. I think that something's wrong. I don't like how much we're agreeing. I think Ayuk is going to be somebody who is, if he's not owned in more shallow leagues, I think he could be one that everybody's going to be looking for off the wire after week 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're just setting everyone up for a false sense of security. We're definitely not going to ever agree this much ever again.
No, absolutely not. I think Dan's an idiot, but sometimes he makes a couple of good points from.
Yeah, and I know that Jake is an idiot, so therefore. All right, number 9, we got Jerry Judy. So everyone's really hyped up with the Broncos offense this year. Everyone expects the quarterback to take the next step, and they have literally 6,000 weapons with Sutton and Judy and tight ends and Fant. So, but I think that with his route running and just his pedigree, that he can become a really, really good, possession receiver. His PPR numbers could be really well, even as soon as this year.
Yeah.
If he can do over 4 with the quarterback, then he'll be good.
Yep, absolutely. And some people faded him because of how crowded that receiving core is, but there's people who were completely baffled that he fell that far.
Mm-hmm.
He was consensus number 1 overall wide receiver, and I think that he's going to show out. Same thing like I was talking about with Cam Akers and Henderson and CEH and Williams. If they were, I think Sutton's good, but I think Judy's going to be better. And I think if they were, they needed weapons, but if they were so sold on Sutton being the guy, they wouldn't have took Judy that high.
Right.
So
yeah.
I think that, and I'm not sold on Locke, but he's the guy to have, because if buy the cake and not the icing, it's going to be hard to figure out where it's coming from when it comes to the receivers. But Locke's got all the weapons, so I think he's going to be the one that's going to benefit most.
Yeah, I think Locke could be a sneaky good super flex guy if he puts it all together this year.
He's another one of those guys that that can make a big jump and make a big difference in super flex.
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely has all the tools to do so. And finally, number 10, everyone's favorite wide receiver darling so far, Bryan Edwards from the Raiders. So reports are he's starting across from Henry Ruggs. Every report from Cam seems to think that he's the next best thing, and I feel that he has really good hands. If Carr can get him the ball, then he can do great things.
Yeah, he's somebody too that I like. I think he's going to be good, but I feel like the hype has gotten out of control. People are taking him over Ruggs, and I just think that's insane. I think he's going to be good, but even though Carr's going to have some weapons, he's been so hit or miss. A couple years ago he was an MVP candidate, and then look what happened. So he did have a sneaky. He was okay last year, but I think for the hype that people are giving Edwards, there's no I don't know if Carr could support both Ruggs and Edwards, and then you got Jacobs in the backfield. I think it's time to pump the brakes a little bit. I think he's going to be good, but I think the hype's a little out of control.
Don't forget Waller too at tight end. He's still there.
Yeah, and Waller too. And Jason Witten as well. The man, the myth, the legend. Yeah.
Yeah, rookie fever is alive and well, definitely, in some of these guys. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
All right, so you had your sit start out this week, so you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So for quarterback, my start was Gardner Minshew. I think he's going to be somebody who's going to return a lot of value this year for where he was going. As we know, the Jags have just completely dismantled their defense that used to be ridiculous. And there is going to be a lot of garbage time. I think he's somebody that, I think he's going to frustrate at first when teams are, really trying and buckling down. But that combination a couple years ago of Blake Bortles and Allen Robinson was garbage time king. I mean, it was unreal. If Bortles would go into the fourth quarter of games with like 5 points and then get 2 or 3 garbage time touchdowns and wind up as a top 10 quarterback. So I think Minshew's going to have a really good game. I think that Indianapolis is going to really tear up Jacksonville at first, but I think that they'll lighten up at the fourth quarter, and Minshew's going to go off with Chark and Laviska Shenault.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think we can just call it right now. He will be the king of garbage time this year. And that's absolutely fantastic for anyone that has any share of DJ Chark, because he's probably going to target him about 300,000 times.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's going to go in, like you said, perfectly. He's going to go into the fourth quarter with 4 or 5 points, maybe even negative points. He's going to throw 250 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yep. And
you're going to lose 50 to 34.
He's a perfect QB2 in Superflex. He's a guy that on any given week can have a QB1 week.
100% agree.
Running back, my start this week was Philip Lindsay. Denver paid all the money to Gordon, but there's a lot of, Lindsay has outperformed him from all reports this offseason. I've heard that Melvin Gordon's having issues with the Denver air. So I really think this is going to be a 50-50 split in the backfield. Shermer likes to have his running backs involved in the passing game. So I think Lindsay hasn't necessarily been somebody who catches a lot of passes, but I think that's going to go up. Titans had one of the worst ranked defenses against running backs fantasy last year. Yeah, they got Davian Clowney, but it's going to take some time for him to really get meshed with a new team. I think Lindsay's going to have a good week.
Mm-hmm. I think I agree there too. I actually picked him up in my last draft I had. I picked up Lindsay late, so that was a good pick.
Yeah, he was getting completely disrespected. I got him all over the place. He was going way too late.
He didn't get like 1,000-yard seasons before this. Like he's just like some bum.
Right.
And with the shortened off season, and it's not like Melvin Gordon. Like he was good a couple of years ago, absolutely. But how much realistically does he have left in the tank?
He's a volume back too. He doesn't have that great of yards per carry. He's somebody who he was more of an accumulator versus somebody who was the one that had the big plays. So I think I avoided Melvin Gordon as much as I could this year. I don't think he's going to do that great.
Absolutely, yeah. And Lindsay knows the playbook inside and out. He already has developed a rapport with the quarterback and the offense. So I think I absolutely agree that Lindsay is definitely someone to own.
Yep, absolutely. Wide receiver, start for me was DK Metcalf. This game's got a high over under. It's last I checked, it was 48.5, so close to 50 points. And the Falcons have one of the league's worst secondaries. They lost Desmond Trufant to the Lions, and Mr. Unlimited should look his way often. And I promise I'll never do that again. So
if you do,
I think they didn't. Seattle doesn't really have a third. They got Josh Gordon, but he was just recently signed, so they don't really have a big time wide receiver 3. So Wilson's going to look to Lockett and look to Metcalf a lot this week. And the Falcons can score too. I think it's going to be a shootout. Mm-hmm. I think that DK Metcalf has week winning upside this week.
Mm-hmm. As an Eagles fan, my last memory of Metcalf was him absolutely crushing the Eagles secondary in the playoffs. So he definitely has absolutely all the physical tools necessary to be a wide receiver 1. And, he developed a rapport with Wilson, and the Falcons secondary, to put it nicely, is absolute garbage.
There were reports that they were, with everything going on with COVID, they hunkered down and had their own little bubble, and they were practicing this offseason together. So I think Metcalf's going to take over as the wide receiver 1 this year.
Absolutely. And you can't double him because Tyler Lockett's still a viable receiver on the other side as well. Absolutely. So he's gonna face his share of decent coverage, and he should destroy it and definitely be a good start this week.
And for tight end, I went with Hunter Henry. I think people forget Tyrod Taylor is a solid quarterback. He's definitely had plenty for fantasy. He's not necessarily somebody I would want as the quarterback of the Giants, but for fantasy, I don't mind him at all. And really, other than Keenan Allen with Mike Williams hurt, they've got a bunch of bums and no names in LA that I was looking at their roster earlier and I was like, wow, like really? So with Mike Williams, I know that they're saying that he could play, but more reports are saying that he's likely out for 3 to 4 games. Going up against a Bengals defense that struggled against receivers who lined up in the slot, and Henry ran over 50% of his routes in the slot. The Bengals gave up an average of 19 points per game to guys out of the slot. So I think Henry's going to have a big game. And he's somebody who could wind up as the tight end 1 overall this week.
Either agree he's going to have a good game. I don't think he'll end up being tight end 1, but I think he's definitely going to be startable. He's dealt with injury issues in the past, but so he seems healthy right now. And like as you said, outside of Keenan Allen, they really don't have much in their receiving core to lean on. And I think Tyrod Taylor is probably one of the most, if not the most, disrespected player in the league. Like he can definitely put up some decent numbers if you give him the shot. He wasn't
one
bad.
of the very few things that Rex Ryan was actually right about in his time as a head coach.
That's the only time we'll ever compliment Rex Ryan on this show, ever. But yeah, I think Tyrod could definitely surprise and be a good start.
For my sit-em, this hurts my heart to say, but although I am a Giants fan, I am a realistic, unbiased when it comes to fantasy. So Daniel Jones is not somebody I'm looking to start this week. He's known for hanging on the ball a little too long. It really is like he's just a clone of Eli Manning. But I'd be fine with that, getting 2 rings. Say what you want about Eli, but he's got more rings than your entire franchise. So take that for what it's worth. Hey, you said enough about Eli in the past. Hey, you say the name Eli Manning and people go crazy. So future Hall of Famer Eli Manning, I'll throw that in there. But enough about Eli. Going up against I think it's the best defense in the NFL. Pittsburgh, TJ Watt's going to eat his lunch all night long. I think that if this was in Pittsburgh, I could see it being just a complete slaughter. The only thing that he's got going for him a little bit is that it's in New York. So he does have Saquon Barkley in the backfield, but I think that he's going to be hit early and often, and I just don't like Jones this week.
I will agree with you there. I think that Jones does have some good weapons. He has Slayton and Barkley's still there, so he's gonna put up a decent number. But I think like TJ Watt is just gonna own his soul, like you said. Like
Tate's questionable too, so don't even know if Tate's gonna be out there.
Right. The Giants have spent a lot on their O line, and
they definitely shored up the offensive line, but they got 3 new starters. It's gonna take time for them to mesh. So it's going to be a long day for Daniel Jones, right. Unfortunately for the Giants as well.
The undercurrent of this entire week 1 is no one has gotten a lot of practice time. I mean, you should expect some sloppy week 1, even week 2 games.
Yep.
So I think teams that like have continuity, like Watt and the Steelers defense, it's going to be a problem for Jones.
Have a leg up.
Right. So I think he's definitely not worth a start this week.
For sit him for running back, did a 2 for. I just said completely avoid the Tampa Bay backfield this week. The hype train was just going crazy these past couple of weeks for Ronald Jones. Everything that Bruce Arians was saying, he's the guy. He's gotten so much better. Blah blah blah. And then he goes out and picks up Leonard Fournette. So nobody really knows how it's going to shake out. They're saying that Bruce Arians is saying, oh, he's still the guy. It's his backfield. Fournette's a heck of a backup, but you don't go and sign a guy like Leonard Fournette and not use him. I think they're going to eat into their production. A lot of times last year, I'm going to liken it to Green Bay. Aaron Jones was a stud, but they split the backfield pretty much 50-50, and he wasn't that as good when both Williams and Jones were on the field together. So I think both of them are going to have games where they blow up, but it's going to be so hard to predict that I'm staying away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good call. I think, Jones is talented, but picking up Fournette just throws a wrench into the entire thing. Like I think he's the better back over Jones, but I think with the lack of playing time and practice time, that you just don't know who's going to get what there. So it's just too risky of a proposition in order to pick either one of those two guys to play in your lineup this week.
Yep, absolutely. And the Saints rush defense is phenomenal. So that's just one more thing that's working against them. So I'm just staying away. For a wide receiver, I went with AJ Green. I do think that he was getting a little disrespected where he was going in drafts this year, but this is not the week that I would like to start him. First off, they're going against the Chargers, who has one of the best secondaries in the league. They gave up the 5th fewest passing touchdowns and 5th fewest passing yards in 2019. He's getting up there in age. He's already battling an injury in training camp. He hasn't played since 2019. The matchup, rookie quarterback, although I think Burrow is going to be good, he's definitely going to have some growing pains. And with the bevy of other options he's going to have as well, I could see Green being out there more of as the decoy than anything. So he's just not somebody that I'm willing to start this week.
I kind of agree, kind of disagree. I don't think I think he's a flex start. I think that with the lack of practice time, I think if Burrow gets in trouble, he'll probably look to Green as kind of like his outlet guy because he's the wide receiver one just because of rookie jitters. So while I agree that he doesn't, like, he's facing a good defense and they have other options, especially Boyd, that he'll get enough targets and catches in order to become flex viable, but I agree he's not really a must start.
And for tight end, I went with Austin Hooper. Hooper broke out big time, and before his injury, I think he was the tight end 1 overall. But there's a big difference in Atlanta's offense and Cleveland's offense. I don't think he's going to nearly get the targets that he did in Atlanta. They also have David Njoku, who I think I'm higher on most than Njoku. I think he's got the talent to be a top tight end in this league, and I guess the Browns are going to Brown. I don't understand why they went out and got Hooper too. Maybe they don't believe it, but they got Odell, they got Landry, they got Chubb, they got Kareem Hunt. So the tight end position is already so low on the pecking order there. Baltimore's a tough matchup. I think they only gave up 3 touchdowns to the tight end position last year. Hooper is not somebody that I'm looking to start this week.
Unfortunately, I agree again. This is awful. I feel sad.
We're going to have to figure something out. The more we can disagree, I don't like this.
This is the worst. I think even if Njoku wasn't there, you still have Jarvis Landry, like you said. Tight end is so far down. He has so many other weapons in front of him that are better reads. Hunt, Chubb, Odell, they're all in front of him. So there's no way that he's going to get the type of target share necessary for it justify where he's being drafted.
Absolutely. I think we're rolling into audience input, the viewer questions next. So we got a couple of questions from some people on Twitter and Facebook, and
let's get those first. All right. So first from Jeff, deep league question. He needs to drop one of Darnell Mooney, Quintez Cephas, or Gabriel Davis. For me, I'm going to go with Gabriel Davis. I know he's done some good things in Bills training camp. I think that Josh Allen isn't the most accurate quarterback to begin with, and they just spent a ton of money on Stephon Diggs, and John Brown is still there, and they have Cole Beasley. So I just don't think he's going to be high enough, and Dawson Knox is there as well. I just don't think he's going to get nearly the playing time needed for him to be any kind of useful fantasy asset.
Yep. I don't know what this is, but I completely agree with you as well. And also, too, this isn't going to be a high-flying offense. They're going to have a lot of production on the ground. They got Moss. They got Singletary, who catches passes. Allen calls his number all the time. So I don't think that's the type of offense that you're looking at a deep guy like him. I think he's the one to cut.
Yeah. Gladys says, do you have Edwards ranked over Ruggs? Yes. I think Edwards is as a more position type receiver is going to have more value starting out. I mean, Ruggs is going to have his big weeks. He's a speed, deep threat guy, so he's going to have those weeks where he scores, 175 yards and 3 touchdowns on 4 catches or something. But I think consistently, Edwards has the higher floor, so he's the safer option.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that
Thank
I
God.
think I think he's a safer option. But man, Ruggs is a stud. There was a lot of people that had him as the didn't see him going where he did, but he was somebody who that could be considered one of the top overall wide receivers in this rookie class. I think he's explosive after the catch. I think he can fly. I think he's going to be. Oh, yeah, he's going to be inconsistent, but that upside is phenomenal. I think that although Edwards is good too, I can't rank him over Ruggs.
Thank you. Makes me feel better.
Yeah, finally,
Uh,
finally, we have something we disagree on.
so Randall Cobb versus Christian Kirk. Who do you have ranked higher in PPR? Cobb's your boy, so I'll let you start this one off.
Yeah, man. Like I was saying earlier, I got Cobb almost everywhere I could with the injury histories of Fuller and Cooks. Stills is fine, but he's going to be more of a deep threat. I think that the way that Watson's going to have pressure on him a lot, I could easily see where Cobb is going to become his security blanket and somebody that he's going to look to early and often. People don't realize that, and I didn't realize it until I was looking into things this season, this offseason. Cobb had a really productive year last year in Dallas, so I think that he could easily sneak into wide receiver 2 territory with some, in some crazy games, even have some wide receiver 1 weeks.
Mm-hmm. And we're back to agreeing with each other.
Yeah,
I think, especially with the Cooks injury, I don't think Kirk is bad. I just think that with the addition of Hopkins and Fitzgerald still being there in the slot, that he just won't have as many opportunities as Cobb will. And I mean, the Texans don't even have a really decent tight end to work the middle of the field, so Cobb's going to get all the middle of the field work. So I definitely agree in PPR, Cobb is absolutely the right choice.
Remember the name Kahale Ware. I'm telling you, our guy Rob talks junk all the time, but I think he'll emerge a tight end there as well. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, here's a question about James Robinson. How much fab / who do you drop for / when do you draft James Robinson? So I think this is a 3-part question, so I'll take this one at a time. How much fab would I spend on him? I'd spend, assuming you have $100 limit, I'd spend probably about 7 to 10. I just think that, he has the potential to be a starting back, but he was an undrafted rookie for a reason. And the Jaguars are dumpster fire to begin with, and Chris Thompson's still there, and they just signed Daria Gunglier. So I just think it's a big cluster there, and I just don't. The potential, if he wins a job, then I'm wrong, and that's awesome for people that got him. I just don't see spending all that money on him to be worth it.
Yeah, and I agree on that. I don't agree. I wouldn't even spend $7. Maybe $1. I don't believe in it. I don't think it's a good enough situation to even waste a couple dollars. When is there really going to be time that he has a positive game script? They're not going to run the ball. You got Chris Thompson in the backfield. I'm really high on Chenault. He's going to be back there. I just don't see a scenario that he's going to turn into anything special. I know running backs are king, and it's hard to find somebody who's going to have a backfield to themselves, but I don't think he's going to. I still think they're going to sign somebody, and I'm willing to be wrong on him. So if he goes, like you said, if he goes out there and becomes the no name, that the waiver wire pickup that wins people's leagues, I'm willing to be wrong, but it's just not somebody I'm interested in.
Yeah, exactly. So for who do you drop for him? I'd say nobody really right now. But when do you draft?
If it's a deep bench, if you got somebody that's just a dart throw, maybe drop somebody, but I wouldn't drop anybody of significance for him.
Mm-hmm. And where do you draft him? I'd spend a last round or a later round pick on him as a lottery ticket. If he breaks out, great, league winner. Congratulations, you probably won your league. If not, you didn't really lose much, but I'm not going to spend any kind of significant draft capital on him.
Yep, completely agree.
All right. This question comes from Jeff. Who do you have as ranked higher for week 1? Terry McLaurin or JJ Arcega-Whiteside? You can start this one off.
I think it's pretty obvious that I'm going to go with Scary Terry. I know that you have an undying love for J-Jaw, and as much as we vote for those of you who don't know, in our we have a going for two chat, and every single day, J Jaw is mentioned in some form or fashion. No,
But it's not
there's
always
not.
me though.
No, it's very rarely you. But we know you have an undying passion for him.
I do.
So he's brought up a lot, and yeah, it's definitely Scary Terry. Although I do say, as much hate as I give you, I do think J Jaw's getting a little bit of too much flack. I think that we got spoiled with the rookie year of Odell Beckham and Mike Evans and those guys, and it takes time for usually. It used to be, back in the day, it was you want the third year wide receiver because it takes that long for wide receivers to get adjusted to the game. So I think that J Jaw is solid, but there's no way on God's green earth that I'm taking him over Secretary.
I know. He asked this question expecting me to say J Jaw, but I mean, realistically, to be taken seriously, I can't. I mean, McLaurin torched the Eagles last year. He would have had probably, I think, 3 long touchdowns. If he didn't get overthrown. So there's just no chance that he isn't the pick in this question. Sorry, J Jaw. I still love you.
I have that recorded, and we're gonna send it to him so he knows that you chose Scary Terry.
Excellent. All right, so now let's go to the this new section we came up with called Bad Trades, where every week we pull a bad trade from an audience or one we've seen ourselves and discuss it. And we have a doozy to start off.
So it is a doozy.
Let me just bring it up real quick. All right, this is in PPR League. We have, hold on, let me just get there. All right, we have Dak Prescott, Alvin Kamara, George Kittle, and DJ Moore. Were traded for Adrian Peterson, Odell Beckham, Baker Mayfield, and Dallas Goedert. Your initial thoughts on that, Jay?
Somebody must have been trading and drinking because there's no way that trade should go through, period. I don't think any trade should ever be vetoed. I don't think they need to be voted on. I think teams should be allowed people should be able to run their teams like they want. But there is no way that that's not some sort of collusion, in my opinion. Maybe the guy's just really high on Beckham and Mayfield and, thinks that all this news with Zach Ertz that Goddard is going to be the guy. But, Prescott is a guy that could be the number 1 quarterback overall. Kamara could be the number 1 running back overall. Kittle, I think, already is the number 1 overall.
Yeah, he absolutely is.
And DJ Moore, I like DJ Moore. I'm not as high as some. I know he was a stud last year, but Teddy Two Gloves isn't the type of guy that's going to sling the rock. He worked so well last year because he had Michael Thomas who could catch a lot of short passes. So I think that I'm not as high on DJ Moore as others, but he is definitely a stud.
All right, so we agree there. I think that it has to be collusion. That's the only way. That's literally the only explanation for this. Like there's no way
where you can maybe see what the other person's thinking, but you can't hear. There's no way.
There's literally no justifiable anything you could say to this trade. I mean, I'm not even sure, honestly, if I would give that whole bottom half just for Kittle himself, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I completely agree.
Not even to mention Prescott, Kamara, and more. Like, it is just horrifyingly bad.
Yeah.
And honestly, trades like this, you should just get your fantasy rights taken away for a year or two and just go sit in a corner and think about what you did.
Yeah, 100%. And if it is collusion, they need to be kicked out and not let back in.
They'll be that jerk that colludes. Yep. No one likes it. No one likes
people who collude, and nobody likes you, Dan.
No one does like me. Not even my fiance. All right, so let's go to our Thursday night sleeper portion of the program, where we each pick one player that plays in the Thursday night game and see he's going to be a sleeper for the week. So, Jay, you want to kick that off?
Yeah, I've talked about him a few times already on the show. I'm going with Randall Cobb.
Surprise.
Cooks is already battling an injury. They were talking about I haven't seen since we've started if it's been announced if he's playing or not, but it was looking like he was going to go out there and suit up. Even if he is, I think that he is going to be more of a decoy. I don't think he's really going to be able to be involved, especially with a hamstring injury. And I think that Cobb I'm really high on him this year. I think he's going to be that guy that Watson looks for. Security blanket.
It's a good pick. Good pick. I'm going to go with Miko Hardman this year. I think with another year under his belt, he really didn't have much opportunity last year. I think his target share was like 7% or something. It was god awful. He only had 41 targets all last year, but his efficiency was literally the best in the league. Passer rating, throwing to him was the best. It was like 146. Yards per target was number one. Yards per reception was number one. So I think if he just gets a little more opportunity, if he gets a couple more balls thrown his way that don't go to Hill, he also has that deep playability where he can take one off the top and score you a bunch of points really quick. So Hardman's definitely my pick.
Yeah, I think that's disagree and I agree. I disagree on the fact that it's where's the opportunity going to come from? You know, the CEH is in the backfield. They got Henry Kill. They got Mr. Week 1, Sammy Watkins, who he
take Sammy Watkins.
Always
take Sammy Watkins targets and give it to Hardman, please.
I don't understand why they don't, but you know they got Travis Kelce. I think you're right on the fact that if he gets the opportunity, he could produce. But I just don't see where.
That's all he needs, the opportunity. Give it to him, Mahomes. Throw to him. All right, now we're going to go to our. It's a portion of the show. We're gonna. I hate the word hot take, but it's going to be our out of left field. That's what we'll call it. Out of left field.
Okay, out of left field. I like it.
Yeah, where we pick someone that maybe isn't. Go ahead. You explain.
Yeah. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to pick a position and a threshold, kind of an over/under. This week, we're going to go with a wide receiver that we think will score at least 10 points. And it's not going to be, it's going to be deep dives. It's going to be somebody that you wouldn't normally expect to do it. So for me this week, I am going to go with Laviska Shenault Jr. I am really high on him as well. I got him as many places I could. I know the beat reporters aren't allowed to talk about specific formations, but it's been reported that he's been lining up all over the field. And Jacksonville, outside of Chark, is really lacking playmakers. I think that they're going to use him in all over the field. I think he's going to be the guy that everybody's going to go after off waivers if he's not already owned in your league.
Yeah, it's a really good pick. Even the reports, even today, where he's getting some running back snaps in for Laviska. So he's definitely someone that could, if he gets the opportunity, could definitely score at least 10 points. So my under-the-radar guy, no surprise, will be J-Jaw. If ever there was a week for him to do it, it'll be this week. Rager's hurt. Deshaun Jackson's definitely the deep threat. He's going to take the top off defenses. I understand that we have Ertz, who is a malcontent, so that could actually play a little bit into J-Jaw getting some more targets, and Goddard.
I could see them trying to force feed him to make him a little happier.
Exactly. But he's going to start on the outside. He's the wide receiver too. So, I mean, if he gets a couple of balls and he earns a trust of Wentz throughout camp, he could score 10 points. All he needs is a couple of catches and a touchdown. And we'll see.
I can honestly see it happening. The Washington football team is not a very good football team. So I think as much as I hate the Eagles, I do think that they are going to destroy Washington. And I could see pretty much everybody contributing, especially the all the time argued about Miles Sanders. But I think he's going to blow up this week.
Absolutely. Oh, I just had to record that part where you actually agree with one of my J-Jaw takes.
Yeah, I know.
So I just needed to put that out there. All right. So I think that's about it for today. You can check out the rest of the Going for Two team War Room Live on we pretty much have a show every day of the week, right?
There's not a show on Saturdays for now.
We have a show, the War Room Live, is actually Thursdays, Sundays, and Mondays.
Right. Yep.
Then you have the Armchair Fantasy Show on Wednesdays. We have a couple of DFS shows, basically every day of the week.
Armchair, the DFS shows on Friday nights.
Yeah, you can check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope. I think you can check me out on Twitter at EagleDan Fantasy Football and check out Jay at GmanJ. We're running for going for 2 all this year. Anything you want to add, Jay, before you sign off?
Yeah. Two things. First off, it's basic, but a lot of people forget to do it. Make sure when you have guys playing on Thursday night, you get them out of your flex. I've seen too many times that somebody gets a player locked in at flex on Thursday night, and then they surprise scratch on Sunday morning, and then they try to swap something out, and they can't because the wide receiver they want to start, they can't put him at flex, and they got too many running backs, and I've seen it too many times and cause losses. Make sure that you adjust your roster based on the schedule. And then the second thing, I want everybody to always remember that Michael Jordan is the GOAT, and he is much better than LeBron James.
100% agree. No question.
Well, I've had a lot of fun tonight. We're going to have some hiccups along the way. One thing Dan and I wanted to stress was that we want this to be an interactive show. Keep asking questions. We're going to post usually on Wednesdays. We're going to send out a tweet. So if you want to guarantee your question gets answered, respond to that tweet. We're going to hit those first. And also tell us what you like, what you don't like. We're open for suggestions. We want this to be more of an informal hanging out with you guys, just talking about the game before week whatever kicks off. So
yeah, everything Jay said, he said it perfectly. We want listeners to feel like they're part of the show. Like anything you guys want to give us, any input, feedback, we're open to all of it. So I think that wraps it up for this week. Hope everyone has a good night. Enjoy first game of the NFL season with the Chiefs playing. Who are the Chiefs playing? I forget now.
Texans.
The Texans, yes.
How could you forget as many times as I talked about
I'm just sorry because I've been staring at your face too long. My brain just shut down by now.
Yeah, well, if you don't scare off enough people with your face, I think we should.
I really don't. I feel like a failure. I should scare off way more people, but I don't. All right, that'll do it for us here. Everyone, have a good week.
Good luck in your games.